This is Talk and Know once again. I really appreciate our viewers and everybody at home for the comments and the messages that were sent to me regarding the last program we had. You know, it is very encouraging, and I know we are following, and that's very good. That's a good part of it. Today we'll be discussing another thing as it's relating to what we discussed before, and today we'll be discussing child discipline in child upbringing. How do you deal with your children at home when they go wrong, or when they do things wrong, or when they don't listen to you? Do you use force? Do you exert force on them? Do you coerce them to do things? Or how do you handle them? This is what we'll be discussing today, because this has a lot of effect on these children. And so, with me here in the studio, I have brought guests for you that are actually into these very topics. And I need you to listen attentively, because they have got loads of things to say to us about these things. With me here, I have Pastor Josie Akobi. He is the head pastor of the Wisdom Learning Center in Damastown, W15. He's a psychologist. In fact, he has a PhD in psychoanalytics. You can imagine that. He's married to his wonderful wife, and he has 3 good kids. He is a parent as well. He understands what we are talking from the spiritual point, from the academician point, or from the academics point. Should I just put it that way, sir? And as well as a parent. You say, thank you, Pastor Joseph, for coming with me to the studio today. I really appreciate you so much, and I believe we're going to get a lot from you today, sir.
Thank you very much. Really flattered. But, we try to be very humble in dealing with the issues that will be raised today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And here with me, I have my brother. We look alike, don't we? This is Emmanuel Injurison. He's one of the Health Information and Advocacy Officer with Cordia. That is an Irish word. I hope I'm going to learn Irish someday. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for being in the studio with me as well. And I know, like we have discussed before, I know this topic interests you, and I know you have something to say about it as well. And I know you are into this, and I hope viewers will be able to learn something today. So let's not take much of your time. Let's talk about this now. You see, I have been able to, I've come across different people, different parents and stuff like that. You see, they say to me they have a kind of, let me put it that way, a stubborn child that doesn't listen to them. And I begin to ask them, how do you deal with these issues? You know, it has come to the idea of, the way we handle kids and our children in Africa. You know, when they do wrong, we tend to use force to correct them, you know. And I know, well, however right or wrong this may be, it is not proven yet until we hear from experts on how to handle children in this situation. So I'm going to start with Pastor Joseph. Do you think, what do you think is the best way to handle a child that's actually, some children can be frustrating. You know, how do we handle such situations? How do we discipline a child in a situation like that?
Thank you very much. It's quite a very broad and kind of a controversial topic. But again, you need to look at it this way. You know, before you say a child needs discipline, you begin to look at how do we get there. Because every child that is born is completely innocent. Okay. You know, every child that is brought onto this earth is perfectly good and very good. So the problem there is that how do we get there? How do we get to the stage where the behavior becomes unmanageable? How do we get to the stage of a child becoming uncontrollable by the children? And that is why the key word that you use there is discipline. Of course, no one can assume the know-it-all in terms of how to discipline children, because parenting itself is a very big hard work, and we may not be stay in 1 hour here to tell or prescribe to people how to manage their children. But you made one key statement: discipline. When we are talking about discipline, child rearing, child upbringing requires discipline. It is when discipline is ignored, then we get into a problem where we begin to blame the children. Parenting is a very heavy task, and it requires a commitment and discipline from the part of the parents themselves in order to be able to impress on the children. I always use this word every time that I speak about this issue, that when principles are ignored, definitely problems become inevitable. Of course, we have a lot of hardworking parents, mothers, fathers working very hard, but the fundamental issue of discipline are ignored because upbringing is a full-time job, full-time investment. If you don't invest in their life, obviously you cannot harvest. And part of the thing we invest in them is that discipline that is well coordinated, well nurtured, well articulated, so that before things start going wrong, we impress on them. It is what we impress on children that eventually become them. We have a lot of hardworking parents that they go out from morning till night, and when they come out, they're tired. So in essence, the children begin to take care of themselves. And what do we expect from those children? They begin to become influenced by anything that is within their environment. So the major issue is not about how to fix them, but it's about how parents can fix themselves. Unless parents become very disciplined and know that child upbringing is a full-time investment, then we cannot correct the fundamental issue.
But Pastor, I kind of get what you're trying to say, but the fact is this: but the parents will have to work at the same time to cater for the children. How you see? I've seen instances where you see well-trained. I mean, when you see the parents, when you see the kind of family, you know, you will definitely say kind of discipline. I mean, the parents are disciplinarian. Let me put it that way. Let me put it that way. And they have instilled values into this kid. They have tried their best, and they still turned out that these children are not even impressing. They are not even impressing the parents, talk less of the community. I can, I've seen loads of things like that.
In that sense, I think what you are looking at there is what we call ad hoc investments. When they give the time they think they should give, not the time the child needs it. Many times we just want to, fix the children when they have gone wrong. What have we impressed on them from the early stage? That they are working is not the problem here. It's about discipline. Even if you are working, you need to be disciplined. You need to give appropriate time to whatever that is required in your life. The way you go to work, you work 8 hours and you finish, you go home. There has to be allocated time for child upbringing. Once those times are not given, then we begin to get into fundamental problems that may be very difficult to change.
Well, that's a good point, Pastor. Well, let me ask you, Emmanuel, what do you think?
What do I think? Well, of course, my opinion is not going to be very far from what Pastor is saying, because what Pastor is saying is what is quite fundamental in our situation here. I can't talk about other communities which are not where we are. We can only refer to the one that we're dealing with. We are in Ireland, so we must look at our case study to understand how these sort of things happen. What Pastor is saying about parents investing in their children, it's a reflection that comes from a lot of history, which sometimes we ignore. Through my work, I discovered that you'll be surprised that almost over 60% of our people here came through the asylum system. And quite often we forget that history. And we forget what would happen if people go through a very complex period in their lives. And when things happen, we don't look back to know how this whole thing started. So many of these children today that we are dealing with, and we are struggling to understand exactly why they behave the way they do. Some of them live in the asylum centers as children. And those were the days or the time in their lives where those building blocks of their functionality are actually put in place. And you will remember, if you know those people who were in the asylum process, how disorganized their lives were. you know. So those blueprints have followed them to this time. What Pastor is saying is actually, it's right on the money.
You see, man, if I will get you well, you mean, well, okay, let me put it this way. The asylum system, it's a different thing entirely. We are talking about even a standard family now. A standard family, mother, child, and their kids, you understand, having issues.
Yes. Well, of course, there would be, you may have situations where people may have not been through the same process or the asylum process, and they have children with exactly identical problem, right? Through my work, a lot of the things that come up will be related to some behavior which happens in the household. A house is a complex place. Parent, and sometimes you don't know what their backgrounds are, or you don't know how much time they invest in looking at the children's behavior. And that is definitely going to be what we are looking at. Discipline, like Pastor is saying, discipline is a process. You can't just do something one day and you imagine that there will be outcome tomorrow. You have to repeatedly go through the same procedure to be able to get the kind of expected outcome.
That's a good one, really. Well, you see, Pastor, let me come back to you again. Pastor, I know of a family that actually have a very good background. They have instilled some level of discipline into the kids, to the children, whatever. But it still turned out to be that the second son, I wouldn't call him a problem now. The second son is actually giving not only his own family problems, even giving all of us in the community a big problem. And people begin to say, oh, this guy is not well, taught from home. You understand? But I happen to know the parents, and I know that these are very good people that they
hardworking parents.
Hardworking, disciplined, and these are parents they have done everything to put value into their children. So now tell me, Pastor, in this kind of situation, could there be a problem, or could there be something that is wrong?
You see, I wouldn't say something is wrong, but if you look at it, the way we are talking about, I think that's what we call personality concept.
Okay.
That no two people are the same. And if you want to use one method that you use from A, that doesn't mean that it's going to work for B. And that's why we talk about individualization. It's a process when two people are different. So it means that we need to identify with the children that we have. We need to understand the kind of personality they have. We need to understand what work for them and what doesn't work for them. Every human being are completely different. Someone may become good by coercing, someone may become good by not even challenging. But it is that level of investment that parents give there that will make them to identify with their children. If you have a child or children, you need to be able to identify with them, know the kind of person, the children that you have, that what works for A may not work for B. I don't want to bring too much of psychology here today, but at the time I may even delve into that. The fact is that it is issue of identification. How do we identify with our children? When does this problem begin? Because if you don't know when problems begin, you are just reacting to problems rather than responding to their needs. And most of the time, what you see there, someone that, if I use your word, they are did everything they're supposed to do. How do they come about that, theory they are following? Is it because they feel that their parent did it to them, so they have to repeat it to their children? Yeah. Or is it because they identify that this child needs a specific support in this area? You have to identify with your children. You need to know, what are the presenting issues. I can, assure you that if we invest time properly and also look for support when necessary, because our community sometimes feel that if they share their problem, it becomes a shame to the society or to the community. When you identify issue, that is why we have different professionals around. Don't hesitate to look for support at the time that you need to look for support, otherwise it becomes a problem. So it's identification. We need to know when did this thing start? And all those things it's not a dream. They don't just happen, in a bloom. No, it is a systematic something that happens with process. So how much do we identify with it? So if they're able to make the other child very good, probably because they did something right. Why not look at that individual? What is the presenting issue? Why are they not listening to what you are telling them to do? So it's about identification. And without identification, you cannot give the proper support. And one of the things that is actually very, very dangerous in parenting is just, I just want to form this person the way I want them to be. You can't form people the way you want them to be. But there is always avenue to bring people up in a way that it will fit their personality, style, and also they become good as well. I'm not saying now that there are no challenging issues in the children, but that is why we have different professionals that are out there to support parents in order, because child rearing is not just one man affair. It is a collective responsibility, but the major responsibility lies at the table of the parents, the immediate parent. It's them that need to identify with their child and also look for support that is necessary for the child to be what this child is supposed to be.
Oh, that's a very good one, Emmanuel. I believe you agree with that as well.
Of course, of course. As I said to you, that through my work, right, I've been working in health information and advocacy now for 10 years. And in that time, I've come across a lot of these kind of situations we're discussing today. And every time you look at the problem child, or a child, I wouldn't say problem child because there's no problem.
The child is giving problem.
Child that's causing a bit of disagreement within the community or maybe within the household. You can find the root of that problem back most times to the parents. I'll tell you something, Pastor will agree with me, that we are always a mirror, a behavior is always a mirror of what is in front of them, right? So for example, if you were sitting on the bus and you look around, you smile, I guarantee you about 20% or more than that of the people around you will turn and smile back because they reflect to that behavior. And same with children. When children start to act up, if you look well into their history or their environment, you will start to spot those what is actually causing the situation. But the example you gave, I was listening to Pastor saying that, I'm thinking, okay, there's a concept of the second child. There's always the first child, the second child.
Yeah.
And most times, the second child always comes with his own challenges, which is a double sword. The second child challenges the first child, and then challenges the parents as well. I have the second child in my home, and I have to watch him closely because I know for a fact that he is one of those kind of examples that you're putting out there today. It is a mirror of the people around the child who actually shows or reflects the child's behavior.
Good. So now, you see, I get you, Pastor. But now, I'll give you an instance. This one happened right in front of me. On a light note. You see, this guy, the mom took him out to the salon to cut his hair. And when he got there, the mom told him he wanted to put on himself a different style, like, this hip-hop style. But the mom said, no, I am not going to allow you to do this. This is not how I brought you up and stuff like that. Do you know right there and there in the salon, this guy was almost beating up his mom. And I know this family very well. This family is a very good family. I know they have good standard and stuff like that. You understand? You see, could it be that they have not been able to identify the kind of personality that boy has or what? Because you see, he has a brother that is doing fine. He has sisters that are doing fine. That's another instance now. So, I believe they would have tried one or two things. So in a situation like that, it is frustrating. You might just want to drop the tone and say, well, whenever you find yourself, that is a problem. Imagine a child of yours trying to beat you up in public. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going back to where I started. It's the issue of identification and the level of investment. If you know, before, that is the issue that is very fundamental. That should have been agreed at home before they come out. What kind of hairstyle do you want to do? That is what I'm talking about, identification. At the time you have known who your child is. You know what they crave for. You know what they like for. You know, for instance, if you have a child, you know, that, you know, whenever you go to market, he wants you to buy something, or whenever you go to shopping center, he wants you to buy sweet for the child. It's not when you get to the shopping center, you begin to tell him we are not buying sweet. You need to discuss it at home that, okay, we are going to the shopping center today, we are not going to buy sweet, and this is what we are going to buy. You will make agreement before you get in there. So when he gets there and begin to talk about sweet, say, remember I told you what we come to buy. That is identification.
What if he disagrees?
If we disagree, then you see, that is where parenting comes to be. That, okay, we have agreed that we are not buying this. You see, one thing that people always want to do is, you know, to avoid shame. They don't want child to cry when they go out. There is nothing wrong about child crying. If a child wants to cry and throw a tantrum in the public, you give that child a time.
That's what children do.
You give them time. There is nothing to be ashamed of. There is nothing to be ashamed of. For this, you know, the typical example you give there is that, okay, they are going to cut their hair, and they know it did not just happen in the hair salon. They must have known the kind of hairstyle that this child has been craving for. They should have discussed it at home. By the time they come to salon, it's become, you know, a collective agreement. They disagree to agree at home, okay, this is the hairstyle you are going to cut, no, you are going to do this. Then they need time. It's about investment. You don't just come in there and just want to impose. Most of what we call discipline is imposition, and it never works. When you impose, what happens is that they fear you, they don't respect you. So you don't impose, especially when they begin to grow to juvenile, teenagers age, you have a collective agreement. We are going to hair salon today, you are going to make your hair, so what kind of hairstyle do you want to do? Okay, I don't like that. Then you have to come to agreement. It doesn't have to, it's not your head. It's their head, but at the same time, they need to know that you don't approve of this. And when a child knows that you invest and you actually give time to their need, they will respect your opinion. When you impose all the time, what you are pushing them is to the edge of rebellion. And when they rebel, the place they will rebel, you will not be very comfortable in that place. And that is the typical example that you cited there now.
I really understand you, Pastor. Well, Pastor, to take us back a bit, we will not forget our roots. We are from Africa, aren't we? But we are living in a different world now, isn't it? Well, it used to be that even in those days before you leave the house, you know what you are going to, you know you cannot come back home with all these, you know, the crisscross, the punk and stuff like that. Like in my own house, if you are going to cut your hair, you know you are coming back like this. But we accepted this. That is what our parents want for us at that point in time. Because where we came from, it's a matter of, I mean, it's a case of how people will see you in the community. When they see your son with a kind of upward haircut, they say, is that not so person's son, or, you know, how can he have such a thing on his head? It's a thing of shame when people look at your child and say that, oh, he's not behaving well. So our parents, they tell us what to do, and we agree. Well, in this present time, in where we are right now, you tell them this is what you want for them, and they will tell you no. It can be so annoying when you tell your child something and he tells you no.
Let me tell you something, right? Probably it's in the water. But as I said, in the time through my work, these are things that I was completely oblivious of. One thing you must remember is that nothing is set in stone. Time changes everything.
Absolutely.
The lives that our parents lived is completely different from the one that we are living. And so our children's lives are going to be completely different. With every generation, they come with their own situations, right?
Okay.
We Africans have this one thing which I always hold myself and say, please God help us to think. We are not always going to be like this. What I mean by that is that with coming generations, things are going to change. The time that our parents did instructed us is another time. We are living in a different community now. We are drinking a different kind of water. Whatever is in that water is completely changing.
What has changed in the water?
You know, we've changed the water that was run in Africa, and we are drinking the European water now. But back to your issue about, you know, children challenging their parents. What Pastor is saying there is that if you don't plan these things and you expect them to just happen when you want them to happen, then you are exposing yourself to all kinds of challenges.
Exactly, and if I may come in there now, because the example you are citing here is that things move with time, regardless of you are African or you are European. All these things are very fundamental things that we need to recognize. In African system is a kind of collective system, and in collective system everybody is involved. Probably you will not even have the barbing salon that we cut that kind of hair in your village. So how do you get it? So it's a collective system, everybody is involved. Here we have a kind of a dynamic system. And the dynamic system is something that is structured. If you don't follow the structure, you are going to miss the point. And that is the reality that we are facing here. There is nothing wrong about the way people bring up their children here, but it also requires more investments. It is more time consuming. And that is why you see a lot of our people here, when they give birth, they take time off, they have parental leave, they dedicate their time, they have bedtime story. You begin to wonder how many of us Africans have bedtime story for our children. When you bond with them, when you tell them what is not acceptable. Yeah. We have a typical story of Obama when he was still the president. What did he say to the children? He said, any day that I see tattoo on your body, I will put tattoo on my body, and then we see how you because they have watched film and see adults with tattoos, and they don't like it. They don't like adults with tattoo, but they like the children with tattoo. Okay, you don't like adults with tattoo. Okay, I'm going to do it if you do it for yourself. So if it's not good for the adults, it's not good for the children. So you need to invest time. I'm not diminishing the difficulties of child upbringing here, but the fundamental problem is lack of investment of quality time to dedicate our time to model the behavior that we want from the children. We can still bring children up in the way that totally, what we call African way, that is very respectful, very dignified. That we are from Africa doesn't mean that things have to happen in an uncoordinated way. So what we are seeing here is that people are not investing the time, and you can't eat your cake and have it back. It is what you invest, and we know it very well. If you don't invest, you can't harvest.
Absolutely, absolutely. Pastor, I really like that, and Emmanuel, I really you guys have given us a good insight. But now let's talk about this. You know yourselves that to meet up the demands of this Western world as Africans, let's put it that way, the way we think. And don't say I'm still thinking like Africans.
Oh, we are African.
We are African. We will not take that away from us.
It's something that we are very proud of.
Proud of. Yeah. So you see,
yeah,
we have a lot to have a lot in our plates. If I need to work 12 hours to meet the demands of taking care of myself, my family, my children, and people back home, and the time I have again to look after the kids and to, get to know them, get to identify their problems and stuff like that, do you think those times won't be conflicting? If I'm rotated for 12 hours job today, for 12 hours work today, and it is 8 to 8. By the time I get home around 8 o'clock in the evening, the child is already ready to go to bed. So, you can see this kind of difficulty.
I will forget what I will say. The fact is this, is actually how much value you place on things. The system here makes things that no matter how long you work, okay, for instance, nurses, if they work 7 days, they are off 7 days.
That's true.
And they get their full salary. So if you are rostered 12 hours, the possibility is that if you do 2 times, you are going to have 3 or 4 days off. It's about planning, what you add value to. So make up for that your absence. If you are working for 7 days in a row, when you are off 7 days in a row, you make it up. You plan it with the children. They will be looking up to that. Even if it's not about amount of time, it's about how qualitative that time is.
That time is.
You are organized. Things are planned. So they know that, oh, mommy or daddy is off today, and they know that they're going to get this, they're going to get this. It's not about, spending, but it's about, adding value to the time that you spend with them.
I use this analogy not in any derogative way, but I think the Jews are very organized. You can't go to a Jewish house without seeing a calendar. And every calendar will have what everybody has to do, you know, right through the month. So you know what you'll be doing on the 30th of July. That's one month ahead, you know, in time. How many of our brothers and sisters take time to do that level of planning?
What if the job they are going to do, their workplace have not even given them the shift they will be in the next week?
But then you must
Not everybody has a permanent job.
You must try and forecast the future. It's a challenge of life, because if you can tell the future, then you don't have to worry. You know, but these things will only happen, like what Pastor was saying. You must plan. You cannot throw, if you don't invest, or if you don't invest, you cannot harvest. You must invest to be able to harvest. And this whole thing, some of them are very little things that you ignore, but they're so powerful. You know, if you have a calendar and you say, okay, John goes to school on Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Friday. John has sports in this and that and that. And over the weekend, what do I do with John? Because that's the time that the parent has with the children. But most parents don't spend that weekend with their children. They have other things they want to do. You know, especially in the situation where they're single parents, they want to stay up all night and probably watch TV, or, you know, have a good time, or be, you know, spend all that. It's okay. As parents as well, we are entitled to a bit of relaxation. But we must forget, we must not forget the responsibility that we have, which will be the children that we will come to the world.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. That's a very difficult situation. I'm telling you.
It is. We are not minimizing the difficulties, but the issue is that with plan, no matter how uncoordinated your working life is, what you actually place value upon, it will always show on the level of commitment you show to it. We do understand, we know people are very, very busy, but again, you look at all the, who are you that busy for? It's for the children. So if
every work we do is for them.
So if you cannot actually make them to feel how important they are in your life, then the work you do, you know, doesn't, you know, actually make much meaning. So it's about, you know, we are not minimizing the difficulty there, but all these things are actually things that can be looked at in different perspectives. There are help out there. There are systems out there that actually will help us to support our, you know, child upbringing in the way that will be very coordinated, very respectful, and very productive as well. So it starts from the buck actually stops from the parents. Like we are talking about, okay, if parenting is a choice. If you think that, okay, because of too much work that you are going to do, then no child needs to suffer as a result of your working schedule.
That's a good point. That is what I'm actually expecting to hear. That's a very good point.
No child should suffer because of that. The child did not beg you to come to the world. You craved, you desired, you prayed, you celebrated, you rejoiced when this child came. So you need also to invest on them. And there is system in place that actually can support all those, you know, support system in place. We fail when we fail to meet up our responsibilities, and as a result, when they become 7, 8, 9, 10, you begin to see it. No child just wake up when they start behaving abnormally. No, it is something that, you know, a learned behavior, or gradually, because nobody noticed. You know, for instance, we are talking about a child go to school and bring somebody's pen back home, and you didn't care about at all. You know, he's writing with it, you know, you didn't buy it from the child. Oh yeah, it's okay. You don't question the child to return it back. And tomorrow when he go to the shop, he takes to it when you are going out of the till. Because the people on the till may not harass the child because he's a child. And then,
but it forms gradually.
Exactly, it forms.
The habit forms gradually.
So it doesn't just come overnight. It is those little negligence that actually accumulate, and then they become a bigger problem. Of course, we are not, you know, ignorance of the fact that there may be some quite difficult, you know, children, but there is support system to manage them as well. But they need to be identified on time.
On time.
They need to be identified on time. I mentioned earlier the journey that many people started, or how they came to this country. If we keep ignoring the importance of that period, then we will keep going around in circles, and these problems will keep repeating themselves. Because with every generation, there will be their own problems. Our the parents of these children that we are discussing today had a very difficult time coming here. It's not. Today, people are driving big cars. You know, they have good jobs. People have PhDs. People work in all kind of responsible positions. But there were times when these guys were mostly asylum seekers here. People were. I mean, they would sit in the bus, and nobody wanted to sit next to them. You know, so you can't just imagine that all of that experience just suddenly disappeared. So while we are looking at what the difficulties in raising these children, we must try to understand the challenges that these parents themselves have.
Yeah, and one caveat there now, because I don't want us to generalize, because not everybody comes through asylum system, and not all people that went through asylum system that are experiencing challenges. There are people that never know what is asylum and still they have challenges as well. So it actually boils down to that issue of investment, issue of recognizing and identifying that what works for A may not work for B. So we need to know that, and we need to start working on that.
That's true. I really like this. This is just the beginning. I will tell you, this is just a kind of introductory class into child discipline in child upbringing. We have other things we're going to discuss. We're going to be breaking this down into different topics. You have heard a lot from Pastor Josie and Emmanuel today, and you see we are still going to be hearing more. We're going to be breaking down this topic into 3 different ones. We're going to be looking at the parent-child relationship. You see, Pastor Josie and Emmanuel were able to establish just that most of the problems that these children have is because we don't actually have time to study them, to notice changes in their behaviors, because we are too busy. I don't know what we are looking for. Everything you are working for is because of these children. What will you be at the end of the day when you make all the money and you don't even have when you look back to your children, they're not even making you happy. So what are you doing? You have gained nothing. We are going to be looking at the parent-child relationship. You have to invest time in your children. You have to, no matter how difficult it is, you have to structure your work to allow you to give time to your children. We are going to be looking at the relationship your child have in school with their teachers and people. And the community as well. So we're going to be breaking this down so that we have a better view of child discipline now. So that, you see, I love the way you people have made us understand today that the problem doesn't just start at once. It is one step after the other that becomes a leap, becomes a jump, and probably becomes a flight. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and today we're actually just talking about identifying the problem.
Identifying the problem.
In the next episode or whatever, we'll be looking at solution focus, the ideas on how to manage all these, prevailing issues. So definitely, I'm quite, I have to praise Kunle for, for the wisdom that God gave to him to start organizing this. So there is a lot of things that we're going to explore more. Like I said today, I just talk generally as a parent, but when we meet again, I'm going to be talking more as a professional in terms of knowing the area that we are in as well. Okay.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. I really appreciate that.
And I was going to say, because I've been 10 years in what I do, and I've been involved in quite a lot of policies, and I think we need to really understand exactly where we stand in this whole concept. And it's not like we are here to live tomorrow. This is our country. I mean, we've moved here. It's not like at some point we're going to leave. So our children, if they're going to have a problem, we must try to imagine what future they will be, or will be for them here. Yeah. So this process that you started, I think is a really good idea.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'm happy to have you in the studio with me. And thank you, viewers. I believe you have gained a bit, because I know you still have a lot to gain from this program. I believe you have gained something today from Pastor Josie and from Emmanuel. And well, I am as ignorant as you. But I know when we have a guest in the studio, they will enlighten us more. I want you to stay tuned, get ready for the next one. That's going to come next week. We'll be talking about the parent-child relationship, and we'll be talking about solutions to existing problems. I know it's not easy to bring up a child or whatever, but the thing is this: there are problems, and I know there are solutions. To every problem, there's always a solution. And trust me, We'll be talking about this next week, and it's going to be lovely. And once again, I'm going to say to my guest, thank you very much for coming to the studio with me, sir. And Mona, thank you very much. I'm happy and I've learned something today. And I want to say a big thank you to Ray Productions as well. He is the man behind the production, and trust me, he's been very supportive. All I want us to do, let us put our hands together, let us put our heads together, let us put our mind together to teach these children, to raise them in a way that they'll be useful to us, they'll be useful to the community, and they will be even useful to themselves. That is what we are here to do, and that is what Talk and Know is for. We will bring topics that will enlighten, and it will transform lives. It will even make your work easy as a parent. You will learn ways to manage your home from here. And I believe, I'm trusting God, it's going to be right, all right. And see, viewers, I thank you once again. To all my fans out there, thank you so much. This is Talk and Know. I'll see you again next week. Nice one. Cheers, guys.